Oh, hi. There's Instagram. There's Facebook. All right. Sunday, on Sunday, I invited some family over for dinner, and I was running around getting everything ready, and I was like, "Oh shit! I just ran out of water." Like we have bottled water, and we go to the water store and we get our alkaline water, and we have like 7 bottles, and they're all empty. And I'm literally like the last little bit of water. We're out. And so my girls are 13, almost 10. So I said, I'll be right back. I'm going to the water store to get water. I was just going to get one bottle. And I get in my car, and the water store is literally down the street, up the street, over the street. Like it's 5 minutes from my house. And just want to make sure that test you can hear me. Okay, good. That you guys on Facebook can hear me. So I leave here and I turn onto a kind of a one-way street to get to a stoplight, and the stoplight is also an off ramp from the highway, from the freeway, feeds into this road. So I take this road every day. This is the way I take my girls to school, and I'm always looking because people coming off the freeway are going really fast, and I'm always wanting to merge over into that far left lane so I can turn and then turn. So I have to be in the far left lane. So I'm looking in my side view mirror, and also behind me, and I don't see anyone, coming from the freeway. But then, so I start to merge into that left lane, and all of a sudden, this woman from behind me, so she doesn't come from the freeway, she comes from behind me, races around, squeezes into that left lane. I swerve so she doesn't hit me, so that she can get in front of me, and then we get to a stoplight. And I lost my shit. And when I say I lost my shit, let me explain to you what that means. I was like, first of all, I realize I have some, I'm not going to use this, like, I don't use this term clinically, like, I'm not talking about a diagnosis, but I have some post traumatic stress from my accident in December, to the point where sometimes when I drive, I get really nervous. And I've never been that way before. I'm a very confident driver. I'm very comfortable. I'm okay in traffic. But since the accident in December, it hasn't been that way. So this woman does what she does. She is in front of me at the stoplight, and we're both getting ready to turn left. We're gonna stay in this left lane to turn left, and then turn an immediate left after that onto a different street. And I'm like, I lose it. I just lose my shit. And I roll my window down and I flip 2 birds at her. I'm like this. One's out the window and one's in my dashboard, or through my windshield. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs obscenities, and it's bad. And then the light turns green, and there's a few cars in front of us, but there's no cars in this next lane over, which also turns left. So there's 2 lanes that turn left. There's no car to my right. And so I pull into the lane next to her, and my window's still down, and I'm just screaming obscenities at her while I'm driving. I want to preface this, not my proudest moment, but I'm sharing this with you, vulnerably sharing this with you, because what I learned from this has been profound. And there's a deeper message here, so stay with me. So I'm driving and I'm enraged. I'm not even paying attention to where I'm going. I'm looking at her. I'm turning at the same time. She's turning. The car in front of her kind of speeds up a little bit. And I just like zip my car right in front of her into that far left lane. And I do this in a very unsafe way. There's nothing safe about how I maneuvered my car. And I'm screaming and I'm furious and I'm gunning my 2009 Honda Accord that really doesn't have a whole lot of zip. And I get in front of her, and it's all a blur. I don't know who else I cut off and what other unsafe driving I did. But we both turn, so she's behind me. We both turn left, and I don't slam on my brakes, but I slow down to about 10 miles an hour. So I'm really, really egging this on. Like I'm really being shallow. I'm really being, I'm absolutely overtaken with rage. And I'm about to turn. It wasn't very long that I was going the 10 miles an hour. I was literally going to make an immediate right hand turn into the grocery store parking lot where the water store is. And I'm thinking I'm going to turn and then I'm going to flip her one final bird and she's going to go straight down the street. Well, she ends up turning into the parking lot of the grocery store as well. So I pull over. I pull over to have even more words with her. And my window's down and she pulls up next to me and her window's down. And I'm thinking it's gonna go. Like this is part of, I've been talking about rage all this. I've been talking about rage. I've been talking about, how to channel our rage and how powerful it can be in our mission and our, and creating change and creating movement. Excuse me. I do yoga for fuck's sake. I'm a fucking peaceful person. I like do this crazy work with women to like really get them connected to their emotions and process it. And I do this work with myself. And so I pull over and the lady pulls up next to me and I start screaming obscenities at her again. And she says with a completely authentic, not angry face, "I am so sorry." She just looks at me and she says, "I am so sorry that I cut you off. I have an emergency happening right now in this grocery store." And I'm like, I don't know what kind of an emergency, but she said, "I really am sorry. I did not mean to do that. I feel terrible. I'm really, really sorry." And the moment that she said that last sorry, I just was like, holy shit. Like these are the things that you never know what someone's dealing with. You just never know. And she just authentically, legitimately apologized to me. And I instantly just said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I was so appalled at my actions and how like, and it wasn't like yes, it was conscious and also it was so unconscious. It was such unconscious rage. And so she went on her way and I just slowly drove through the parking lot in a daze. I got to my parking spot. I parked and my whole body, this rush of adrenaline just I'm shaking. My hands are shaking. I start crying. I'm just overcome. Overtaken by this instant feeling of shame and guilt. And then the what if started running through my mind. What if she was a psycho and she pulled out a gun and she killed me? What if when I cut her off, I hit her car and hurt myself? What if I died? What if I killed someone? And so these were the next round of thoughts that came through. And I just sat in my car and just processed like the adrenaline and then processed really the next question that came to me was, what was that all about? Like, what just happened here? Like, why did this happen? And a couple days earlier, I was driving on the freeway and a guy was just on my ass. And he got so close to me from like driving behind me and then got over. I thought he was going to clip the like rear part of my car. I was like, there's no way that he's not going to hit me. He's so close. And I silently flipped him the bird so that no one could see. Not my daughter was in the car. Like, and then about a week before that, I had an incident at my kid's school where someone cut me off. Like it was like my turn to turn into the parking lot and she turned in front of me. It wasn't her turn. And so it's been this thing that's been building. So I'm sitting in the car and I'm processing like, why did this happen? Like what actually happened here? Why did I literally lose my shit and be like so reckless and so unsafe and so angry. And so I don't like nothing. I didn't care about anything else other than letting this woman know how pissed off I was. And so I calmed down. I decided in that moment, if you've been watching any of my lives recently, I've been talking about rage. I've been talking about suppressed anger that we hold in, frustration, things that we don't communicate, whether it's from yesterday or 45 years ago when I was 5, it's in there. And I decided that I was going to figure out the cause, like what had me snap? What had me choose that? What had me like instantly just go, I don't give a fuck right now. This woman is going to know how pissed off I am and how dare she, and this whole litany of things. And so this process that I've been going through to heal chronic pain and really dive into why there's chronic pain in my body, like why is my body responding with pain or autoimmunity. The reason, so the process for that is to journal and to look back at either something that happened yesterday or again something that happened 45 years ago or something, some sort of a stressor. And so I decided that I was going to do that the next day. The next morning, I was going to journal about this and figure out what the fuck it was. And so I did that. I let it go for that day. I told one person, I told my sister, I didn't give her any details. I texted her, I was like, holy shit, I just had this episode of road rage. I am petrified. I am ashamed. I'm appalled at my actions. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I was so unsafe and so reckless. And I said, and I don't want to talk about it because she was coming over for dinner as well. And I said, and I don't want to talk about it. We never talked about it. But the next morning I journaled about it. And what came through was this feeling of not being seen or heard or respected or regarded, this feeling of being dismissed that I remember from my childhood. So I talked about this, like I've gone through this so many times and so many iterations from so many different perspectives, but I can see, like I discovered that what's in there is this kid, this 9-year-old kid that the rug was pulled out from under her. Like my experience of my parents' divorce was one day I was living in New York with my entire family intact, and my memory of this is the next day my dad was back in New York, my older brother was in California, and I was now the oldest, and it was just my mom and me and my brother and sister, and no one asked me how I felt. There wasn't a, hey, how are you doing? It was just business as usual. We just move forward. No one talks about anything. And so I discovered this like 9-year-old, like this 9-year-old anger and frustration that no one's saying anything. No one's talking to me. No one cares what's going on over here. That's not right. Like there's this feeling of like, that's not right. That's not okay. It's not okay that this thing that's so significant, that I feel so unsafe right now, that these two very significant men in my life are now no longer here. They're just gone, and no one's saying anything about it. And so I dug into it, and I really discovered this thing with my mom, and this just feeling like I don't matter, feeling like I'm not important. I'm not as important as someone else. My feelings don't matter. My emotions don't matter. What I think doesn't matter. And I started to get it, and I was like, wow, that makes sense. Like, that makes sense to me. Feeling like I don't matter is, then it was devastating. Now it's like part of the work that I do out in the world. Like I'm looking at like all the ways that this not mattering, this not being seen, this, what is my life for? Like, what am I here for? has been there all along, and it's been encouraged in certain events in my life, like this one from childhood, many of them from childhood, not feeling regarded, valued, heard, listened to. Like I'm not, my opinion, my feelings just don't matter. So that's what came out on this woman, against this woman, was like, how dare you do whatever it is that you're doing, thinking that your time matters more than me, that wherever you need to be matters more than me. And it wasn't about her. It wasn't about her. It was about me feeling like I'm holding in, or, like these incidents of like, it's happened a couple times recently where I feel disregarded. I feel disrespected. And I don't do that. Like when I'm driving, I'm one of those people that's like, you know what, you go in line at the grocery store. Someone has less than you go. I'm always like holding the door open for people. Like it matters to me that I am the kind of person that does that. So it's even more shocking for me because I'm like, well, I get it, like I get it. And also this shit came out. So I discover this and I decide to write this in an email to the people that follow me, the people that are on my email list. And I got probably 10 responses, which is a lot. I don't have a very big email list, but very few times when I send emails to my list do I get responses. And I got a lot because one of the things that I mentioned in the email, and I'll say here, is I get it. I get it how people can snap. And not as a justification, but as a chronic problem in our world. How many people, how many marginalized people, how many people of color, how many women, how many people in poverty feel like, is anyone paying attention? Does anyone care that this is happening, no matter what this is? The inequity, the injustices. Like, is anyone listening? Does anyone care about what's happening to me? And so I can see why people snap. And especially because in the line of work that I do, it is really about digging into the hidden emotions, or even just the emotions that are right under the surface that we know are there. Because that's really a lot of what I do. Like, determining why we're doing something here on the surface. I say one thing, but I mean another. Or I say I want to lose weight, but I secretly binge, in my pantry at midnight. But I'm going to tell you that I'm really committed to losing weight. Or I'm really happy in my marriage, but I'm cheating on the side. Or, whatever it is. I look like I have all this money, but really I'm freaking bankrupt. So it's all the ways that we are lying, like really covering up. And I don't mean lying like consciously lying. It's more, I need to hide this thing. I need to shove this down. And the reason I've been talking about rage is because I see it out in the world. I see what human beings are doing to each other, what we've been doing to each other for centuries, for eons. And I just have this belief that if there was a way for people, for their heartache and their heartbreak to just be witnessed, to be acknowledged, to be seen, to be gotten, to be heard, to be listened to, how healing this would be. What could we actually do if we gave everyone an opportunity not to bitch about other people? I know it wasn't about this woman. It wasn't about this woman. It was about me feeling dissed. It was about me feeling pushed aside. And that's my shit. Like that's mine. So when I hear these horrific things about people, opening fire in a grocery store, children coming to school with weapons. These are symptoms of what I believe are obviously bigger problems. They're bigger problems. So I say this because I believe this is where healing occurs, and I'm called to talk about emotion. I'm called to pull out of the shadows, from the corners. I'm called to speak about it. I'm called to like create some sort of a platform or a forum for this kind of stuff to be healed. And it's our job to heal it. I took it, like, this is my job to get to the bottom of why I freaked the fuck out on this woman. That's on me. That's my job. I didn't have to, but I had to. I didn't have to, like, I didn't have to, but I have to because of who I am and what I'm about and what I stand for. And so I just wanted to share, because I'm sharing this everywhere. Like I said, I emailed my list. I wanted to share it here because I've been talking about rage. I've been talking about unexpressed anger and repressed emotions and how they manifest in our lives. It's like pushing something that is actually like a buoy, pushing down something that is designed to come up. It's like a volcano. It's like, little bursts of anything that's under pressure needs to have some of that pressure released, or it will blow. And I really, honestly, truly, in my heart of hearts, in my soul, in my deepest knowing, feel like this is something that gets to be healed with people, is feeling gotten, feeling understood, feeling heard, and just feeling like they're enough. Like, how you feel matters. Can you imagine if we walked around and we created relationships from how you feel matters and how I feel matters, and how can we do this in a way that everyone gets to know that about themselves, that everyone knows that they matter, that everyone feels and experiences being heard, being gotten. Not as right or wrong, but just as like, this is what I'm feeling. Because when we don't do that, like when I had this stuff that there were these present day triggers that pulled this stuff from my childhood from 41 years ago. It pulled it up to the surface, and I was like a caged animal. So I wanted to come in and share. I would love to hear your comments about what you believe about, our emotions. How do we, what would be a way to, I know I have my ideas. Like, my idea is we create a platform for people to just vent or rage or, wail. And I've done this before. I did a wailing ceremony in October, and it was very powerful. It's a private Zoom, but like we get to experience these things in healthy ways, not against each other. I don't get to take this out in a vehicle against another human being. That's not okay. Now, I mentioned this in my email. It's taking everything in me to not feel shame and guilt. Meaning, thank you, Morteza. Thank you. To feel shame and guilt and bad and wrong, like I'm a bad person. I could go there. But then if I did go there, I wouldn't have had the vision to see what's really going on. Because I could have just stayed in self beat up, like, holy shit, I can't believe I did that. That's the worst thing. What's wrong with me? I spent a lot of years there. That doesn't do anybody any good. For me to be able to see, oh, this feels like this from my childhood, or this feels like that experience where I got slapped across the face for no reason when I'm like 8 years old from some bully, and no one said anything. No, nothing was done. Like, these injustices that happen to us. If we don't have this way of expressing it in a productive way, in a way that's healthy, in a way that's safe, in a way that's honoring of our emotional process, the shit will come out in ways that are not good. Like, what we see happening out in the world. So I wanted to share this with you. Not fun. Not fun at all. Not easy. I didn't like one bit of it. I wrote that email. I was like, you can't send this. People are they're gonna call you a hypocrite. You're going to, I mean, it was awful. Like I had to just work through some stuff. And it's not about what I did. It's about what I learned from what I did. In any moment, it's not about what you do. It's about what you learn from what you do. So take this with you. I would love to hear your comments um, about what you think about, the shit that we feel as human beings. So thank you for listening. I'll see you next Wednesday. And for those of you on Facebook, I am no longer going live on my business page. I'm only going live here in the private Facebook group. So I'll be just talking about that on Facebook. So if you have someone and you want to share this with them, I don't know if you'll be able to share this, but you can just tell them to join the Facebook group, my women's only Facebook group. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great